Welcome to the FAFSA walkthrough video for the 25-26 academic year with Get to College. My name is Chelsea Williams and I work for Get to College, a college access nonprofit organization located in Mississippi. Today we're going to show you how to complete the 25-26 FAFSA, which applies for financial aid for the fall semester of 2025, spring semester of 2026, and summer semester of 2026. What you are going to see in this video is a walkthrough of the FAFSA line by line for a dependent student, which requires using parents' information. In this video, we will be starting the form as a parent and inviting the student as a contributor. Let's get started. The first thing you will need to do is go to studentaid.gov. Once you enter into the page, you will go to where it says FAFSA form, and then complete the FAFSA form. From there, you will see where it will say Start a 25-26 FAFSA form, or log in to edit or accept an invitation for a 25-26 FAFSA form. We are going to select Log in to start. You will then be taken to the login page where you will need to enter in your studentaid.gov account username along with your studentaid.gov account password. I have transitioned over to the FAFSA prototype, which is what we will be using today for demonstration purposes. We have entered in the username and the password, so we're going to log in. From there, we are going to select Start a New Form. And as mentioned at the beginning of this video, we will be starting this FAFSA form as a parent. From there, we will enter in the section where the parent will need to enter in students' information. So they will need to enter in the student's first name, last name, date of birth, social security number, if they have one, and their email address. Once the student's information has been entered, you can continue on with the form. From there, you will then enter into a series of videos that you can choose to watch. The first one is all about the FAFSA form and what it is. The second one is all about contributors and how you can invite them to the form. The third one is all about what you can expect while you are completing the FAFSA form. And then the last one is all about what you can expect once you have successfully submitted the FAFSA form. From there, you will then enter the student identity information page, where you will need to review the information below and verify that it is correct before you move forward. You will also need to enter the student's permanent mailing address. Once you have entered that information, you can then continue with the form. You will then be brought to the page where you need to enter in the student's state of legal residence. So we have Mississippi entered here, but we also need to enter in the date the student became a legal resident of Mississippi. So for month and year, if the student was born in Mississippi, we're going to put the month and year. If not, then just put the month and year they became a legal resident. We will then enter into the student's personal circumstance questions. In this section, you will be asked questions that will be used to determine the student's eligibility for federal student aid. Let's go ahead and select Continue and move forward. In this first section, you'll be asked the student's current marital status. Okay, so this is asking as of today. For this demonstration, we're going to select Single and Continue. You will then be brought to a page where you will be asked that when the student begins the 25-26 school year, what will their college grade level be? Again, for this demonstration purpose, we're going to select freshman, but if you have a student that is a sophomore or beyond, you can select those answer choices below. The next question is asking, when the student begins the 25-26 school year, will they have their first bachelor's degree? Again, we're going to select no for this demonstration purpose. From there, we are going to enter into a student's personal circumstance questions. So this list of questions is going to determine whether or not a student is seen as independent on the FAFSA or dependent on the FAFSA. If a student answers yes to any of these questions listed, they will be seen as an independent, or they will be independent on the form. And so they will only use their financial information. They will not need their parents, just themselves. So the first question is asking, the student is currently serving on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces for purposes other than training. So this does not count towards if a student is in the National Guard or anything like that. In order for a student to be able to select yes to this question, they will need to be in active duty and actually have orders. So if they do not have any active duty orders, they will not select yes to this question. The next question is, the student is a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces. Pretty self-explanatory there. If that applies to them, they will select yes. If not, they'll move on to the next question, which is, the student has children or other people, excluding their spouse, who live with them and receive more than half of their support from the student now and between July 1st of 2025 and June 30th of 2026. Okay, so if a student has a child or other people, excluding their spouse, who they are providing more than half of their support for, they will select yes to this question. Going on to the next question, at any time since the student turned 13, they were an orphan, meaning they had no living biological or adoptive parent. I'm going to also read the next two as it kind of pertains to the same since the student turned 18 phrase there. So the next one as well, at any time since the student turned 13, they were ward of the court. And then lastly, at any time since the student turned 13, they were in foster care. So again, these three questions, the biggest thing here is for a student to fully understand that the phrase since the student turned 13. So since they turned 13, if any of those things following the comma happened, they are able to select yes to this question, or to these questions. Moving on to the next question, the student is or was a legally emancipated minor as determined by a court in their state of residence. Each state handles emancipation differently. So if there are any viewers here that are watching outside the state of Mississippi, definitely reach out to the colleges in which you are planning to submit your application to just see how their financial aid offices handle emancipation in that state. I know in Mississippi, emancipation isn't really recognized, but definitely reach out to the financial aid office and just see how they handle emancipation for that state as well as for that school. And then lastly, the student is or was in legal guardianship with someone other than their parent or step-parent as determined by a court in their state of residence. It is important to understand that this is asking about legal guardianship and not legal custody. Legal guardianship and legal custody are two totally different things. So just know, if you as the student select yes to this question as they're being in legal guardianship, you must provide the paperwork or have the paperwork ready so that you will be able to show that you are in fact or was in fact in legal guardianship at some point. So if a student is able to select yes to any of those questions that we just went through, they are independent on the FAFSA and will only use their financial information and will not need parents' information, okay? For the purpose of this video, though, we are going to select none of these apply and move forward. On this section, it is asking about the student's homelessness status. So it's asking, at any time on or after July 1st of 2024, was a student unaccompanied and either one, homeless, or two, self-supporting and at risk of being homeless. We select no here, but if we select yes, it will have a drop-down menu that is going to ask, did any of the following determine the student was homeless or at risk of being homeless? But again, we're going to go back to no and continue on. The next question is about student unusual circumstances, and it's asking, do unusual circumstances prevent the student from contacting their parents, or would contacting their parents pose a risk to the student? So this is for students that are experiencing unusual circumstances based off whether they were in an abusive or threatening environment, so they had to leave home, they were abandoned by or estranged from their parents, they have refugee or asylee status, and were separated from their parents. They are a victim of human trafficking. Either themselves or their parents are incarcerated, and contacting them would pose a risk. And lastly, otherwise, they're just unable to contact or locate their parents. You, as the parent, are completing this form. So we're going to select no for this demonstration purpose and continue on. From here, it's going to bring you to a page that says, okay, the student is in fact a dependent student, and you, the parent, which is filling out this form, must provide parental information on the FAFSA. This section here, for direct unsubsidized loan only, this is for students who are faced with the circumstance that their parents are refusing to provide their information on the FAFSA form. And it's letting them know, if that's their case, that they can receive direct unsubsidized loan only. But if parents do not provide that information, then they will not be considered for federal Pell Grant eligibility. So again, for this demonstration purpose, you, the parent, are filling out this form. So we're going to assume that you are in fact okay with providing your information. So we're going to select no and continue on with the form. From there, we're going to enter in the parent identity information section, where you need to review the information below and verify that it is correct on your behalf before moving forward. So just making sure everything looks good here, as well as that permanent mailing address. You are then going to be brought into the parent's consent and approval section, which is one of the, if not the most important section on the FAFSA form, as by providing your consent and approval, you will be able to have that federal tax information imported over from the IRS. If you do not provide consent and approval, then your student or your child will not be eligible for federal student aid, as providing consent and approval is mandatory in order to receive federal student aid. So we definitely want to provide consent and approval by selecting the approve button below. On this page here, it is just making sure everything looks great and that it is successfully being imported over from the IRS. As you can see here, we got a green success button here, just letting us know that we can confirm your information has been successfully brought over from the IRS, and so you can continue with the form. So we're going to select continue here. From there, we're going to go into the parent demographics section. It's going to ask for your current marital status as the parent, so we're going to select single, never married. It's also asking for your state of legal residence, so we're going to put in Mississippi. It's going to ask when the month and year you became a legal resident of that state. So if you've been here your entire life, it'll be the month and year you were born. If not, just kind of give a guesstimate of when you became a legal resident of that state. And then we're entering into the parent finance questions. Let's just go ahead and continue on. Okay, so the first section that it is bringing us to is the federal benefits received. So it is asking, at any time during the 2023 or 2024 year, did the parent or anyone in the family receive benefits from any of the following federal programs? So earned income credit, federal housing assistance, free or reduced price school lunch, Medicaid, refundable credit for coverage under a qualified health plan, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program or SNAP, SSI or Supplemental Security Income, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families or TANF, and then Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infants, and children or WIC. If you did not, or anyone in your family did not receive any of these benefits, you will select none of these apply and continue on with the form. It is then asking what your family size is, okay? So it says here family size includes the parent and their spouse, the student, and other people if they now live with the parent, and the parent will provide more than half of their support between July 1st of 2025 and June 30th of 2026. So this includes dependent children who meet these criteria even if they live apart because of college enrollment, okay? We are making it a best practice to select yes here so that we can see what has been actually pulled over from those taxes. So as you can see here, it says a family size of 3, depending on the dependents that you claim. So if this is not the accurate family size, you can change it. So for example, let's say you have an additional child that is living with you. You will select, and your family size is 4. You will enter in 1 to make it to 4. You will not put in 4 because it's going to make it to 7. So we're going to put in 1, make it to 4, and continue. It is asking out of the 4 people in the parent's family, how many will be in college July 1st of 2025, June 30th of 2026, and this does not include the parents. So we're going to put in 1. Okay, and then it is asking about your tax return information for the 2023 year. So IRA rollover into another IRA or qualified plan. If you have that, you will put that here. Same for pension rollover into an IRA or other qualified plan. If you have that amount, you'll put that here as well. The next is that the parent received the earned income credit. If the answer is yes, you will put that. You will select yes. You can find out by looking at the IRS 1040 form on line 27. If you don't know, if you don't have your tax return with you on hand, you can select don't know and continue on with the form. Amount of college grants, scholarships, or AmeriCorps benefits reported as income to the IRS. So this is benefits that you have reported on your income taxes. So if you did not report or pay any taxes on any grants, this amount will be 0. And lastly, foreign earned income exclusion, which can be found on the 1040 on line 8D. That amount here and continue on. Okay, so now it is asking about the annual child support received. So you're going to enter the total amount of child support received for the last complete calendar year. So if you received child support or if you were receiving child support, you would need to enter in that total amount that you received for the last year. So right now we're in 2025, so you will need to enter in the full amount you received for the 2024 year. If you do not receive child support, you will just enter in 0 here and continue on with the form. And then lastly, we are going into the parent assets. So their total of cash, savings, and checking, the amounts they have there in those accounts. So I'm going to just put a number in here. And then net worth of investment. So again, this is any stocks, bonds, CDs, that real estate that you may have. This also includes a college saving plan. So if you have any 529 college saving plan, you'll enter that amount here. However, you will only enter the amount for the student that you are completing the FAFSA for. If you have multiple children and you have college saving plans on all of them, you don't have to worry about putting your other children amount just for the student that you are completing the FAFSA form for. If you don't have any investments, you'll enter in 0 and continue on to the last question, which is current net worth of businesses and investment farms. Again, this is any business that you may have that you are receiving a profit off of. You'll need to enter that net worth in, but just be mindful that you will subtract any debts owed against it. So if you have any equipment or anything that you are currently paying on with your business, you will subtract that, as that will be the total net worth that you will enter in here. But if not, you'll enter in 0 and continue on with the form. Now you have entered into the last portion of the parent section of the FAFSA. Okay, so this is basically the summary page. So you can go back and review all of your answers that you put into your personal identifier. So all the things such as your name, all the personal information for you here, you can just verify that it is correct. Same for your demographics. And then lastly, for your financials, you can go in and check and just make sure everything looks good there. Once you verify that, you can continue, and then you will sign and complete the parent section. Okay, so you're going to sign on behalf of you. Select sign, and now it says you're almost there because Raya will have to log into her section and do her portion to successfully complete the FAFSA. Now let's transition into the student portion of the FAFSA, or for this demonstration, Raya's FAFSA. So Raya has entered in her studentaid.gov account username along with her studentaid.gov account password. So we're going to log in. Once we enter into Raya or the student's studentaid.gov account, on their dashboard, you will see My Activity, and you will see where it says Action Required. So we're going to select that. Okay, so we are going to provide consent and complete the other portions of the FAFSA that need to be completed in order for Raya or the student to successfully complete their FAFSA. So again, one of the, if not the most important page of the FAFSA, providing that consent and approval so that they can receive federal student aid. So we're going to select Approve. Okay, it is securely important the student's information. We got a success, so we can continue to proceed. So now we're going to input the student's finances. From there, it is wanting us to enter in the student's 2023 tax return information. If this is a high school student going into their freshman year of high school, they probably have not completed or have ever filed taxes. And if that's the case, that's no problem. They would just need to enter in 0 for every question that does not apply. So for IRA rollover into another IRA or qualified plan, let's just say for this instance, or for this demonstration, that Raya is a high school student. So she does not have this. So we're going to enter in a 0. Same for pension rollover into an IRA or other qualified plan. We're going to enter in 0 as well. Now, amount of college grant scholarships and AmeriCorps benefits reported as income to the IRS. If they did not file taxes, this will be a 0. But if they did, what this means is if they received any grant scholarships or benefits and they reported it as income on their taxes, they will put that amount there. If they did not, they'll enter in 0 and continue. Foreign earned income exclusion. If they have that, it can be found on the 1040 Schedule 1 on line 8D. If not, they'll enter in 0 and continue on. And then we are into the student's asset portion. So we are going to enter in the total cash, saving, and checking account amounts. So we're just going to give a number here. Current net worth of investments, including real estate. So this is any stocks, bonds, CDs, investments that are in their name. Okay, not in parents' name, but in their name. Okay, it does not include the home that the students live in, but if they have real estate property, they can include that as well. It is the net worth. So net worth in the terms of the FAFSA is the value of any of the investments minus any debts owed against them. So if you have any investments, but you also have debt owed against them, you'll subtract that and get that amount, that estimate amount, and enter it in here. But for Raya's case, we're going to enter in 0 and continue on. And then current network of businesses and investment farms. This is if you have any business that you are profiting from. If a student has a side hustle where they bring in some money, they need to enter in that amount there. Again, it is net worth of the value of the business minus any debts owed against them. So if they have any debts owed against their business, they will enter in that amount here. But if not, they will enter in 0 and continue on with the farm. And just like that, we have reached the end of the student portion of the FAFSA. So this here is Raya's summary page where she can go in and check her personal identifiers. She can check her personal circumstance questions, demographics, financials, and colleges. So she can just go through and make sure everything is looking good there. As a reminder, this is the prototype. It has very limited functionality. So it does say that we invited another contributor, but just know Mom was the person that started. But for this video, Raya just completed her section. So again, she can go through and check and make sure everything looks good. And then she can continue to her signature page where she will sign and submit her FAFSA application. So we're going to sign for Raya and submit. Once Raya submits, she will get her congratulation page from the FAFSA that she has successfully completed the form. It will give her her completion date, her data release number, along with her estimated SAI. It will also give her an estimate eligibility amount. As you can see here, it says based on the eligibility criteria, Raya may be eligible for a federal Pell Grant up to $6,000. If you would like to know more about the student's financial aid estimate eligibility in terms for federal student aid, you can find out more about that once the student receives their FAFSA submission summary. If you want to know how to read your FAFSA submission summary, we do have a video on our YouTube channel that was posted right before this one that you can go and check out. Brings us to the end of this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop those in the comments below. We monitor those often, so we will definitely respond as soon as we are able to. If you are in Mississippi, we would be happy to help you with your FAFSA if needed. You can find more information on the FAFSA as well as free resources for students and educators that can be found on our website at www.gettocollege.org. Thanks for joining us.